1, 2, 3, audio test.
Hi, this is CBRadioMagazine.com, and it's been a while since I've had a new radio on the desk. This is the President Richard. It's an AM/FM 50-watt PEP 10-meter radio, and I've seen some other radios that were newer that came out, but they were kind of rehashes of other ones that had already been out previously, and I wanted to find something that was kind of new to look at, and this one caught my attention. I've been hearing some really good things about it lately. It's already had some good reviews. There's been a couple guys who've done videos on it, but I wanted to see for myself, and for those of you who haven't seen it before, I'm going to show you what this radio is all about, talk to you about the menus, and I'm hopefully going to show you guys at least one new thing that hasn't been shown in other videos previously. So this is the President Richard. Let's jump in. All right, we've powered on the radio. This is actually a little more red looking. It's looking orange here on my video camera. I'll go through the colors and show you. You have some options there. I love that it has kind of standard size knobs, mixing old school look and feel with some new school technology. I think a lot of drivers will appreciate that. You've got, your full-size SRF meter here that would be in a traditional radio, but you've got a digital display, but it's a nice big digital display. It's easy to read the numbers on it, and it's got packed with features. So you're mixing kind of that new with the old, and let's jump in and I'll show you these. We've got a USB charging port over here. You can actually plug in your cell phone, charge a cell phone, charge a power bank. You can actually charge if you had a microphone that you needed to charge. You could charge all of that off of there. I'm actually kind of interested to see what else I could run off of that. If I could run maybe one of the digital equalizers that I have that now runs off standard USB power. So that'd be kind of interesting to see. 6-pin President microphone on this. It does have the kind of standard mic you've seen with the President Lincoln, the McKinley up-down buttons on it. Volume control right here on the inside. It's also your on-off switch. Squelch control on the outside. And we've got the famous President automatic squelch control at the bottom. If you put it all the way in the low position, it'll determine which signals to let through, and it does a pretty good job. I've always been impressed with the automatic squelch control on the Presidents. Next knob over is your RF power, important one. You can actually run it at maximum, or you can go down to a minimum. If you were running an amplifier or something where you need to turn it down, or you just don't want to blow the socks off the truck next to you, you can lower your power down a bit here. Microphone gain on the inside over here. RF gain control knob is on the outside. This is your channel changing knob. It's also your menu knob. If you hold it in, it takes you in, and you have plenty of digital menus and stuff to go through and play around with in here. Over here we've got our SRF meter. Look at this, nice, bright, full size. They put in a bright white LED. Same thing we've been doing, modifying radios, getting rid of those wheat bulbs. Comes from the factory like that. Really nice and crisp and easy to read. I love it. Really easy to read at night. We've got a mode switch here. This is to go between AM and FM. This is an AM/FM export radio, so this would be good in Europe. We don't use a ton of FM here in the States, but that's just the way this radio is set up. Does have a PA function on here, and also there's a little bit of interesting switching you can do for the PA as well. I'll show you that in a little while. Echo on or off. If you need to set the echo, or you want to change the delay and the length, you can do that in the menu functions. Emergency 1, emergency 2 switch. So you have an off position, you have an EMG1, EMG2. This would normally be like a 919 switch. You can actually choose what channel these are. So you could set it up for favorites instead of having it be emergency channels, which is actually a pretty cool little feature. Has a A&L automatic noise limiter noise blank switch here. You can click that in, or you can go into the upper position where that's enabled, plus the high cut is enabled. You got a band switch here. Obviously this is on the 10-meter frequencies out of the box. You would have to do a modification to expand it. I'll show you that, but this is how you would flip between the different frequencies, is with this band switch. You've got a Vox button here, and this will allow you to enable the automatic voice control. Basically, you can just talk and it will key up. You can set the sensitivity and the timer on it and everything, so I will show you guys that function as well. Menu, we've got a ton of stuff in here to go through, but I'm going to flip it around, show you guys the back and the inside, and then we'll go back into the menu functions and some of the other really cool features, including the scan function and stuff on this. All right, back of the radio, standard 3-pin power connection. I love that these are being standardized kind of across the CB industry. Just all those years where we had 2 pins, we had 3 pins, we had some even old radios, had some really weird pinouts, and now it's just nice to see just a very standard 3-pin on all these radios. Antenna connection here. This little guy is your Vox connection. If you wanted to use a Vox microphone, you could plug it in here. We have your PA and your external speaker jack. Big heat sink as part of this case on there, which is nice. And that's pretty much it for the back. Alright, I took the covers off. I normally do this a little bit later, but we're going to jump back to the menus after I show you a couple of things. First of all, nothing really to mess with inside the board in terms of adjustments for you guys. There's some stuff we can do through the menu that I'll show you in a little while, but real clean layout. I love the heat sinks on this. Nothing really for us to mess with on that side. However, at the front of the board, we're looking from the back to the front, and there we go, now we can see. There is a modification for this radio if you wanted to make it receive and transmit on CB frequencies. Now, of course, this would just be for experimental purposes, because this is a ham radio, basically. It's set up for 10 meters. But there is a little spot up here where you can see a line, and there's two little dots. And we can run a jumper from there and then go through some menu functions to get this going. So you would have to basically use a really small little piece of wire. I'll kind of show you an example. Helps if it has a solid core on the wire, and you would stick that into one hole, stick it in the other side, and you could solder it through on the other side. Now again, just to give you guys perspective on that, that's my finger, and that's how big that is. So we're dealing with some pretty small stuff. If you're not comfortable soldering that, you may need to take it to a technician who can do it for you. This might be a little tough to see, but there's now a white wire. I'm now pointing at the white wire that I soldered in to connect those 2 points. So I'll show you what you do next. Okay, we added our small jumper wire. We've turned the radio back on. As you can see, we're still in 10 meter mode. There's another step. I'll show you one thing real quick before we switch out. When we're in 10 meter mode on this radio, before we do any major changes, you can see the tuning steps can be adjusted. If I just do a short press on the menu button, I can adjust the tuning steps. You lose that function when you do this modification. It goes into more of a channel mode on it. So I'll show you what happens. We'll hold down the button here, and we'll go into our menu mode. And there's going to be a bunch of menus that I'll go through and show you, but we're going to flip to an option that says PD, and we're going to adjust this to 1, 2, 3, 4. And each time I'm just pressing the button here to go to the next position. And once I do this, it'll automatically reset. And now you can see we're on the CB frequencies. So that's the modification for the experimental mode if you wanted to go into that. Again, this is a 10 meter radio. It's not licensed by the FCC to transmit on CB frequencies. So if you decide to go in there, and anything you do after that point is at your own risk. But for informational purposes, thought you guys would want to see that. Now once we're here, I will show you again. The switch now acts like a channel changing switch. You can see we'll go down to 4 channel 40 and then back up. If I do the short press now, it just beeps at me, so it's in channel mode. So let's go through some of these other functions and I'll show you what else we can do on this radio. Alright, next time I want to show you guys the menu features. If we hold in this button for a minute, it takes us into the menu. And first up is color. We can change it, and I don't know how the colors are going to show up. This is showing up orange. It's more red on my screen. We have a green, a blue, a cyan, a yellow, a purple, which probably doesn't look very purple on the camera here, and then a very kind of white display. I'm going to leave it on red so we can see pretty well what's going on. In life, real life, of course, this looks a little different, just the camera. Key beep. When you turn this on, every time you turn anything, it makes a beep. So I usually leave that off. Next option is the Roger beep. You can turn that on or off. When it's on, you'll see the little musical note appear on the screen. Tone control. You can turn this down, negative for low tones. You can turn it up for high tones. Low tones when you have a lot of hash. High tones when you want to hear someone way out in DX land. Dimmer control. We can dim here. It doesn't dim the SWR SRF meter, only the digital display. Oops, next up. Oops, there we go. Emergency frequencies. Now this is where you can set the actual emergency 1 or emergency 2 frequency. So I can set this to 6. I can set the band. So in each band you can set the emergency 1 or emergency 2. So if we're in the A band, which is the CB once it's been converted, we can set it for 6. You can also set it for a different frequency in the B band. You can also set the mode, which is great if you're in the UK. You can set it to FM, set it to AM. Now, once I've done this, Let me zoom back out and I'll show you here. Once I've done this, now, get out of here. So I'm back at the regular screen for using this. If I was on channel 1 and I flip this little emergency switch up, we're here on channel 6. If I flip it down, we're on channel 19. You can see how easy that is. Nice, quick little easy function if you wanted to flip between your favorite frequencies there. And we'll zoom back in over here. Now, we can go between each one of those and set those. SWR function, if we click on this, the radio will start transmitting. It'll test your SWR. We have a very low SWR. As you can see, it's only showing up a 1.0. I don't think it's that low, but basically it's a good flat match. If you have a high SWR, this will start beeping at you. So pay attention when you do that one. It's a good test. You can change the microphone type. It's set up for the microphone that came with it. Newer microphones, most of those are electric type microphones. I can never pronounce that correctly, but you also can do a dynamic type microphone in there as an option. PA, this is actually a really interesting function. It has a line type option, an off, and a PA. So if it's in this position, what happens here is the PA sound comes through the internal speaker, but when you the receive of the radio will come through the internal speaker, but when you key up the modulation, your voice goes out through the external PA speaker. If you have it in the off position, only your voice comes out and you won't hear any receive through the PA or the internal speaker. And if you set it to PA function, both the receive and your voice will go out over the PA. So that's kind of a neat function. I haven't seen that one before. This BD name, you can actually set whatever name you want on the radio. So you can set a number here. It's just 2 digits, but I could set it to say CB on here. Span, this would be for when we're set up in the other mode. I showed you could tune down in the different places. You can't do that. It's in kind of in channel mode, so you can turn it on or off, but right now it won't work since we're in the expanded mode anyway. You can see on, off. Next up is our echo delay and our echo delay. You can set that, and then there's your echo time, and you can set that one. Both of those are on the same kind of function, so you press the thing twice to get through those. You can turn on the UK frequencies, UK option. We're not in the UK, so we can turn that off. We don't need those. There's a reset function here. You can go and change this to all, and if you do that and you do a reset, whoops, I just did a reset here, and yeah, it didn't do anything. But if you do the reset and it goes into the all functions, what that will do is it will change it everything back to stock. It'll delete all of your modifications on your frequencies, and it'll also put you back into the 10 meter mode. All right, a couple more things to show you guys. As you can see over here, there's a little musical note. That means the Roger beep is on. That lets you know that. You can see it shows Talkback. This radio does have Talkback, which is great, especially if you're trying to adjust your echo. To get into Talkback, you press down on the push to talk switch, and then you press down on the band button, and you'll see the Talkback went off, and now it's on. And when you do it the first time, you can adjust it, oops, the number here, and you can adjust the level of it from 1 up to 9. Obviously, the louder it is, the more feedback you might get when you get up towards 3, 4, 5, and up. So that's how the Talkback works. It's through the band switch while you have the push to talk enabled. Over here, mode switch. I'll show you guys this one. The mode switch, AM, FM. If you hold it in, it takes you into the PA function. It'll flash PA, FM. If you press it again, it'll flash PA, AM. And that's so that you can have the AM signals go through or FM signals go through while you're in PA mode. So that's a neat little feature. Hold it down again to go back into regular mode. And band switch, if you press on this, it goes through the frequencies. You can see 27, 26, 28 megahertz, 25 megahertz, and 29, 24. It goes all the way up, basically 24 to 30 in that range. If you are not a ham, don't go out of your range. If you're a CB guy and you do decide to use this radio for CB, please just stay on the A. That's where you'll be. The Vox. If you press Vox, Vox goes on. Basically, 1, 2, 3, as I talk into the microphone without keying it, it automatically will key the radio. So it's a voice-activated feature, hands-free if you wanted to. The settings on this, you'll have to mess with them to get it to work properly for you on how loud you're going to be in your environment, all that. If you hold down the Vox button, it takes you into those features, and then you compress it to go through. There's your level, your anti-Vox, and your timer. So I'm not going to go a whole lot into that because if you're going to use the Vox, you need to read the manual and go into it anyway. But basically, you can adjust how easily it picks up your voice through the microphone, keys the radio, the delay, and some other stuff on that. All right, as promised, I'm going to show you something that hasn't really been shown in any other videos, and that is the engineering menu on this. I don't normally show engineering menus because you can royally brick your radio if you do stuff in them. On the Lincolns, a lot of people messed up their President Lincoln radios. By going into the engineering menu, you can mess with your sideband frequencies, So normally I don't show this. This one, you could screw it up. You could blow up your radio basically by doing some dumb stuff, but I'm going to kind of show it to you anyway because there is some interesting things in it, and you're unlikely, if you follow what I tell you, you're not going to hopefully blow up anything. But anyway, promised I'd show it to you at your own risk. Be aware, you don't have to do this for any reason. You have your microphone, and to get into the engineering menu, you have to push to talk button in. You're going to have to hold the mode button and the band button and then turn the radio on, but you also have to have these switches in a certain configuration. Echo has to be on, emergency has to be in the off position, A&L noise blank has to be in the off position. So I'm going to attempt this. I'm holding in the buttons, holding in the push to talk, I turn on, and there we go. We're in this menu. I'm going to zoom in here so you guys can see this. First thing that comes up is pH. And I did a little testing, and I think I got this figured out, but again, this is still at your own risk. I'm not 100% sure on these, but this seems to be the control for the FM output. There isn't a high-low control in here, so you can't set the minimum one way and the maximum one way. It either reduces all of your power or increases all of your power. If you turn this number up, your power goes down in FM mode, from what I can tell. So RF power on this radio, when you have it straight out of the box, the max is about 40 watts for FM, which is pretty amazing. If you adjust this number up, that number comes down on the high power, and it also comes down on the low power, so it does both at the same time. If you do the number down, the power goes up. Now this radio's rated for about 40-50 watts is what it says on the box, and that's what it's rated for. I don't recommend trying to just blast up your output by turning these numbers down. So that is my warning to you. Next button, you go cycle through them by pressing the buttons on the microphone. This PM button is your AM power adjustment. If you want to run an amp or something, you need to lower your AM dead key with this radio. You can turn this number up, and it should lower your dead key. Now, of course, you need an external meter for all of this. I should explain that too. Don't expect to be able to do this without an external meter. Don't attempt to do this without an external meter. You could set up your power levels really weird and screw up your radio. Anyway, if you're trying to get down to 1 watt or so with the RF power in the minimum position, again, you could turn this number, make this number go higher. RF power goes down. It goes down on minimum and maximum mode, so both of them are affected by this. Next one up, this is for FM. I'm just going to skip that, since most of you guys are going to use that. AM modulation. This is where you can adjust your AM modulation. There's no pot for it inside the radio, as far as I can tell. There's no other pots really to adjust the power, so everything is through this menu function. By turning this one up, actually increases your modulation. From what I could tell, it's set. Mine was set from the factory from 175. And also, write down all these numbers before you mess with anything. Your radio might be different than mine from the factory, so you want to record your numbers in case you want to put it back to where it's supposed to be. This goes all the way up to 220. And I did notice a difference in the output and the modulation and the swing and everything with the adjustment on that. Now, these things aren't super audio monsters. They sound really good. I believe you could probably crank it all the way and you'd be over 100% modulation. Probably not going to sound terrible. Some of the guys I've seen their input online, modulation hitting 100% was around 210. Your radio is going to vary. Everyone's is going to be different. So obviously, if you have an oscilloscope, you can set this up for 100% modulation, adjusting this. But again, use a meter, check it out, use an oscilloscope, use the right equipment. All right, we're going to wrap this up with just a couple quick things. I didn't show you guys the scan function. It's real simple. Squelch is up or in the automatic squelch control function. You push the up or down button and you hold it down for 7 seconds. So right now it's changing channels, but it's not scanning. You'll see a little dot start flashing over here. That means now the scan function's going, and if someone talks and breaks the squelch, it'll stop. If you want to go the opposite direction, you can press the up button or the down button. It'll change the direction of the scan. And if you want to get out of here, just key the mic and then you're out. output numbers on this radio. I'm sure you guys are interested in this. On FM, low power on the RF output, 3 watts. High power, just over 40 watts on FM. So really good power output. AM in the low position, about 2.8 watts with modulation, hits about 5-6 watts. So not a huge amount of swing there, but I'll get back to that in just a second. 15 watts in the high power position, 35 watts of swing with modulation. Now, when I went in and changed that modulation number up higher in the engineering menu, increased the modulation, now things changed. AM 2.8 watts with swing about 10 watts. On high power, 15 watts, swinging 50 watts. So with that little bit of modulation boost, power came way up, which is super impressive for a tiny little radio, 7 inches wide, 8 inches long, smaller than most old school radios you guys have ever used. More features packed in here. I mean, it's got, you know, the cool old school controls, basically styling with the meter, but mixed in with the new stuff, the new display, echo, Roger beep, mode switch. It's got cool PA functions that you don't have on a standard CB. Emergency, you can change those memory buttons in the emergency switch. It's got Vox on it. I mean, it's got adjustable RF power. It's got a charger for your cell phone. It's really cool, and it's got a really durable package. The heatsink in the back and on the inside, on the sides, around the finals and stuff is really nice and robust. It's a small package. It's going to generate a little bit of heat because it is a little bit higher output, but they've compensated for that with the heatsink. Overall, really cool little radio. I mean, a driver who's in a truck would use this. You're going to have plenty of power, you know, good modulation. You could use this as a travel radio because it's totally compact. It'll fit in newer cars. Price point. This thing is like $160, $170 in that price range up to, you know, some shops will have it a little bit higher, but I mean, a new Cobra 29 can run you up $130 to $150 depending where you buy it. This is just a couple bucks more and you're getting all this output, all these extra features, which is a really great deal. So I think President hit it out of the ballpark with this one. And again, that's why it's been getting good reviews. That's why I wanted to take a look at it. And I'm glad I did. This is definitely a keeper, pretty cool little radio. President Richard, thanks for watching, guys. cbradiomagazine.com.
This is the stock microphone with the President Richard. This is the stock microphone with the President Richard. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, audio test. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, audio test. This is the Road Devil D104 microphone with the microphone gain set to about 50%. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, audio. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, audio test. This is a test with a studio microphone running into the UR6QW and then running that into the President Richard. We're actually powering the UR6QW with the USB port on the President Richard. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, audio test.